We've just gone through and removed all of the pencil marks and all of the excess glue on the inside edges. And it's time to go through and we need to come through and glue this. So we need to get the whole project together. Now for this, you need your glue. Once again, we're using type 1 because the working time is appropriate for what we need, as is the strength. So we've got a 4 to 6 minute working time with this glue, depending on the day, which should be plenty of time to go through and glue everything up. There's also type 2, which you may see around. Now that has a much shorter working time of 3 to 5 minutes. And then you have type 3, and type 2 is water resistant, whereas type 3 is waterproof, and it has a working time of 8 to 10 minutes. So they all have their various purposes and uses. For the majority of stuff we need to make, type 1 is the go. Now, after you've got your glue, you're going to need 8 of these, and they're 8 little clamping pads. Now, depending on the clamps you choose, you may need 4 more, so you may need 12, because I'm going to use a couple of soft close clamps, which I'll show you in a sec. You're also going to need your moist towelette and your dry paper towel, just to remove any excess, once again, off your fingers, but also off the job if you've got any excess there. The very first step when doing this is to make sure you've got your pieces correctly sorted. So as long as you followed the glue up procedure correctly, going 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, then your pieces should force you to line your job up in one way, which means I can't do it this way, I must flip it, and this way they're all facing the same direction. Then you want to see which is going to be the best glue up side. Now, for me, this side by far is the nicer look, and that's because when I was doing some routering, I made a little mistake there, and we want to hide that. So that's the aim, is to hide any mistakes if possible. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap there. Let's just not put that on show. So you set this up to be the most aesthetically pleasing job you can possibly get. From here, let's just divide them down, and let's start applying some glue. Now with the glue, I'm only going to apply into these rebate joints because we don't need heaps of glue. Everyone's always too keen to glue, and it causes heaps of issues. It's a pain, it's annoying, and then you come and you ask, "Sir, how do we get rid of all this glue that's on the inside of this joint?" And I say, "Not easily, mate." So once again, if there's any excess, wipe it away with your fingers and remove that. Because you don't need that much glue. It's a little box joint and it's not going to have too much pressure put on it. And making sure to get it on all surface faces. Do one, and then you're going to quickly do the other. I'll just get this done really quickly. Once again, not too much glue. I didn't run a bead the whole way. I'm now spreading that out, running that down. Now, if you're watching these videos and you're finding them a little bit detailed and long, no, I don't have other videos for you to watch, but what I do have is a recommendation that you can put them on a faster playback speed. So you could, in fact, go watch them on what speed, like 1.5, 1.25, to remove or to get through them a little bit quicker. After you've got your glue there, the next step is fold them up, move them together. Now, I like to always have the side that I want to see visible, showing upwards. And remove any glue off your fingers, because that's going to mean you're not getting any glue on your job like I just did there. From here, we're going to get 2 of our soft close clamps. I like these because they're just easy and quick, and they're light. Compared to the F-style clamps we've got, these are so light. And we're using these to put pressure coming this way. That's going to just keep them together with enough pressure so that we can apply the other clamps. I'm going to move this one back to the edge there. Now, you definitely could use more of these. I just don't think it's required, to be honest, because we're getting the pressure pushing this way as it is. From here, make sure you've got the correct side facing up, which for me is going to be this face here. We're going to come down, you're going to open your vise up, and you're going to sit this in your vise with the box sitting just above. From here, you need to come through and you need to make sure that these are aligned as much as possible. And for me, honestly, they're looking pretty good. You want the bottom to be aligned more than you want the the top to be aligned, because we're aiming for clarity on the bottom so that it's nice and sits flat on the timber. You've got that sorted, you've gone through, you've checked that out. The next step is we're going to apply some of these, the little packers, which protect the project from the F clamp heads there. And so for that, come through and just apply these packers. They're pretty simple. I put a little bit of tape on mine just to hold them in place. As you can see, it doesn't really matter how the tape's applied, as long as it's just kept them on. You could, if they fit, no, they don't fit for me. You could tape them however you want. I'm gonna do them front and back. And the reason we're doing that is because it protects the job. You don't want to have dints in your job at the end, and these are going to help protect you from that. Once again, we also don't need to over tighten these clamps. People love to over tighten clamps, and there's just no need. So, the very first step I'm going to do is I'm going to go, and you always want to clamp. I'm going to clamp the bottom first, because I just don't like how those packers are hanging. Come through, line that up, and then have your handle poking this way. This is because that way you can leave it clamped in the vise without having any risk of hurting someone. I've got that one clamped. Now we're clamping closest to the edge, so the pressure is coming onto the edge. We're going to come through, we can do the other one as well. Next one up. Now you don't need to over tighten, but do give them a bit of tension. And finally, coming through and applying that top one there. Now, if you are worried about the tension you can get on these bottom ones, you are more than welcome to lift this up a bit, reclamp that down, and then you can apply a bit more tension there, but of course, I didn't need to be honest. They were plenty fine. From here, the next step is to come through, lift off some of this tape because those packers are held, and try and see if you're getting what you're wanting to have happen. Looking at the edges that you're just currently glued, which is for me, is this edge and this edge, because the other ones, it's too late. You're wanting to see any of this squeeze out. Now I've got a tiny bit of squeeze out on both joints, and so we're going to use that wet paper towel, and we're going to get down in there and really get access to it and remove it. So I've just torn off some of that wet paper towel, and we're going to come in and we're going to just use that wet paper towel to remove it. So you can even do this with Type on 3. I know it's a waterproof glue, but it's waterproof once it dries. It's not waterproof when it's wet. And so you've got access to come through and really remove that. Because once again, once it's dried, it sucks to get out. So come through and remove all of that. Go over it a second and third time to make sure that you're really targeting those inside edges. Because the only way to remove it after this is to try and come down with either sandpaper or a file, and that's when you start really marking up the inside of your boxes because you're going across that grain. Now, if you've got squeeze out on the top or on the outside edges, it's not the same concern, especially the outside edge, because you're going to sand that with an orbital sander later. The top, well, we're going to be running that over a sanding board to remove any of those edges. So it's really just these inside edges you need to be very intentional about. After you've done those, and do those ones first, you can use your paper to come around and remove any of that excess in those other awkward, annoying, or not awkward, but those other annoying spots that's leaked out and seeped out. But always do those inside edges first, because the working time with this glue is quite short. 6 to 8 minutes is plenty of time, but it's still always better to get the most important sections done first. Congratulations on finishing another video, and I'll see you in the next one.